Well, good afternoon again. This is Mr. Tom here with another weekly video for you. This week I am going to show you how to make windmills, and we're going to learn about energy and work. I'm sure you've heard those terms before. Now, when I say work, I'm not talking about, 9-to-5 job, you go to a place to work. I'm talking about work as it relates to physics. So, sure you've heard the term energy before. In fact, we talked about it in a past video when we did bottle racers. We talked about kinetic energy, which is the energy of movement, and potential energy, which, think of it as having the potential to move, but you are in place. You're not moving yet. So energy can come from the sun. Think solar energy. It can come from water. It can also come from wind. You may have noticed in the past week we've had some windy days. Wind energy can actually create work or allow us to do work. Think, for example, a water wheel, or if you're standing out at a stream, you see the water moving, and you see a wheel maybe turning. I don't know if they have those anymore, but think back, a couple hundred years, when they would have water wheels that would turn and actually carry water up to another area. That's because the water moving in that current is energy. Same with wind. Water currents, air currents, both have energy that can do work. Now, I'm going to show you what materials I have. I'm just going to zoom in real quick and let's get started. Okay, on setup, let me show you what we got here to make our windmill. First, I have a piece of cardstock paper. Cardstock, thicker than your regular paper. They call it cardstock because when you go to, say, a Hallmark store or any card store, usually cards are made of that kind of thicker paper. I've also got a skewer, a straw, paper clip. This is a jumbo size, so it doesn't really matter. And some kind of twine or string. I've decided to use fishing line, tape, scissors, hole punch, and I'd say these are more optional, but these would be helpful if you want. I've got a ruler, pencil, and of course you can use glue, and I'll show you where you can use that. All right, so let's get started. Now, just to save a little bit of time for this video, I went ahead and cut out the size of the paper that I want. Now, I made a square. It's very important that you make this be a square shape. Okay, so this is an 8" by 8" square. I just measured that out, used my ruler, and then cut it out. Also, you notice that I folded these corners here. Once on this side and then again on this side, and so then that gave me some nice creases. And what I did was I cut down each of those creases and stopped, just say about 1 inch from this center. Okay, so I cut here, 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 and then left about 1 inch. You want to leave at least ½ inch. I'd say ½ inch to maybe even 2 inches from your center right here. All right. Now, this is very important to follow. You are going to fold. You want to pick which side you want to start with. You're going to fold one side down. I'm going to start here. So I'm going to fold this down. Now here you can use glue or you can use tape. I'm actually just going to use tape just to make this a little quicker. Now you want to fold this down, not all the way to the center. You want to fold it down just so it's on the outside of the center. So I'm going to fold it to right here. I'm going to secure that down with tape. Like that. See? So now you got kind of the sail. Okay. So I got that end done. Now I want to take, again, going with the same pattern. I started them on this side of the square, not this side. So this side I'm going to fold down again. Take my tape. tape it down. I think you get the idea here. Hold it down just outside the center, tape it. And then lastly, this one right here. All right, so now you recognize that windmill shape. A windmill is essentially a bunch of sails connected together. Now, press that down a little bit. Very important that you have an axis. So an axis is something that, you know, an object will rotate on or balance on. Think like a seesaw. Let's pretend this is a seesaw here. In order for this to be perfectly balanced, you need something in the center for it to rest on. That's the axis, where it moves back and forth and stays perfectly balanced. Right, so the center of this windmill is going to be the axis. I'm actually going to, let's see, I'm just going to fold this down a little bit again. To be honest, I should have done this before I folded these, but that's fine. Now, the trick is here is you don't want to make your hole too big. Now, because I folded this in half, I am just going to go about halfway down with my hole punch. And about like that, and punch the hole. So see, that kind of goes roughly halfway through. So when I open this back up, carefully, there we go. See, we got a nice hole there. Now we got our basic windmill shape here. Next step is the straw. Now you want to make sure this straw is thin enough that it'll go right through the hole here. Not so thin though. You don't want a little coffee stirrer straw. You want a straw that's large enough to kind of fill up that hole. Otherwise, this is just going to be flimsy and hang all over the place. All right. Next, you want to take your skewer, slide it down through the straw to the other side. And there you go. Now, I think I'm just going to pause this and I'm going to fix this a little bit so it's a little more balanced here. But basically how this is going to work is you got your skewer inside your straw here because you want to hold the either end of this skewer and you want the straw to rotate freely. Now, how you're going to rotate the straw, I bet you probably guessed this, you're actually going to blow in the windmill. So I'm going to pause this real quick, kind of get this resituated, and then we'll continue. Okay, well, I've balanced out my windmill here, and I'm actually glad that happened earlier because this is a really good opportunity to show you, how science rarely really goes how we want it to go at the very beginning when we do an experiment. That's why we do experiments. We have what's called a hypothesis, basically an educated guess based on evidence. We conduct an experiment, we think something will happen, turns out it doesn't, and then we ask, oh, why is that? Why could that have been? In this case, turned out my windmill wasn't balanced because this front end was heavy, so it was leaning that way. So I corrected that by putting some more tape on the back. I also put just a little bit of tape through that hole so it was a little tighter, so the windmill would be a little more snug with this straw. So that actually turned out to be a great learning opportunity. All right, now we're almost done here. To make this a science experiment though, and to show you how energy can create work, we're going to add something to this windmill. This is where the fishing line comes in. Just going to cut a length of fishing line here, just like that. I don't know if you can even see that. It is fishing line after all. But what I'm going to do is I am going to loop this through and tie it to the paper clip. Okay, so let me go ahead and pause this again. All right, next thing I want to do, now that I've got it tied to my paper clip on one end, I want to take the other end of my line and wrap it around the straw, not the skewer. You want to wrap it around the straw. Okay, just wrap that around a few times, and then I'm going to tape it secure. All right, I'm going to pause one more time. All right, well, I got my windmill complete. As you can see, this is attached to the straw. Remember, the straw, not the skewer, is what you want to attach it to. I'll wrap this around about half a dozen times or so, just to make sure it's nice and secure on there. All right, so now I am going to give it a try. Well, somehow ended up over here, but it did raise the paperclip. So I just use energy of wind, or my breath, as I blew on the windmill to create work. I raised the paperclip up the twine. So that is a pretty fun and simple way to test out the concept of energy and how energy can create work. Now, to go a step further with this, make the same exact model again, but compare it with, say, construction paper. Use construction paper instead. Construction paper is, I'm sure you know, is lighter, a little more flimsy. It's going to make a more flimsy windmill than it would be with the cardstock. Remember, cardstock is that thicker paper. So what you can do is keep everything else the same, the length of the string or twine or whatever it is you like to use, the same, same paper clip. So I used the jumbo paper clip for this one. Make sure you use a jumbo paper clip for the next one, or whichever size you want to use, just keep it consistent. The only thing that is going to change is the type of paper. Okay, that also means as you blow on it, you want to make sure that you're not blowing harder on one than you are on the other. You want to keep that the same. All right, well, I hope that was fun and interesting for you, and I will see you for next week's video.